Oak trees don't set an intention to listen to each other better or agree to hold tight to each other when the next storm comes. Under the earth, always, they reach for each other. They grow such that their roots are intertwined and create a system of strength that is as resilient on a sunny day as it is in a hurricane. Many of us have been socialized to understand that constant growth, violent competition, and critical mass are the ways to create change. But emergence shows us that adaptation and evolution depend more upon critical, deep, and authentic connections, a thread that can be tugged for support and resilience. And we know how to connect. We long for it. The transitoriness of our existence in no way makes it meaningless, but it does constitute our responsibleness, for everything hinges upon our realizing the essentially transitory possibilities. Usually, to be sure, mankind considers only the stubble field of transitoriness and overlooks the full granaries of the past, wherein he had salvaged once and for all his deeds, his joys, and also his sufferings. Nothing can be undone. Nothing can be done away with. I should say, having been is the surest kind of being.
You are clearly a boy whose powers will never be developed by means of the Latin grammar.
No, sir.
No, sir? Yes, sir, I say. To instill into that thick head, sir, that is the only basis of solid instruction. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, sir.
All other methods of education are mere charlatanism and will produce nothing better than spatterers.
And that is the infamous Mr. Stelling, according to whose inflexible theory of education, the mind needs to be prepared for any subsequent crop with plows and harrows.
They're Harrows and they're Harrows.
According to wikidiff.com, a plough is a device pulled through the ground in order to break it open into furrows for planting, whereas a harrow is dragged across ploughed land to remove weeds or cover seeds. Is our consciousness a field that needs to be broken up into furrows for planting? And do the clods of soil left after ploughing need to be further broken up by harrows? Thanks for engaging. See you tomorrow. Good morning, friends. The more observant among you may have noticed that the into the field is not one that gets ploughed and harrowed. Amongst other things, it produces hay. So over there is the field, and over here is the hay. And just there is my father creating a third type of field. More on that tomorrow. He's going to explain what the life cycle of that field is.
So coming up now, as we are into winter, there's a chance for some late grass to be grazed by sheep. Right through to early summer we'll be there to produce every crop of hay. And in the meantime, the cows will graze in the fields until it gets so autumnally wet that only lightweight animals like sheep would be appropriate.
There is, Olson claims, a natural progression in life. Plant, cultivate, harvest. In the days when we were an agrarian society, everyone knew this. But that's changed. Today we have to learn it. The step we've lost touch with, he claims, is the step of cultivating. That step takes place only through the patient dimension of time. You're now witnessing a tiny window of a cycle that was described a couple of videos ago. It's a cycle involving a field that doesn't involve any ploughing or harrowing. Secondly, it's a cycle that does involve repetition and full awareness of the reality of time. There's a sense that certain actions need to be performed at a certain time, and a certain level of patience needs to be cultivated. Please share any reflections that you have on this window that we're witnessing. What's your general goal for this area?
Well, for it to end up being flurry colour in the summer with wild flowers, hay meadow type wild flowers. In the first season, if it works, obviously the flowers will come up where I've sown them, so they'll be coming out in these patterns.
What's the significance of the patterns?
Well, I had this aspect of our path out of lockdown generally getting us nowhere. These paths, if you look at them as paths, they get us nowhere. But underneath that black surface there's seeds that will germinate, and so life will return.
Ah, so the planning gets us nowhere.
It's inevitable that nature will continue. What's not inevitable is how well the species will cope with it.
Sowing wildflower seeds.
Not very technologically advanced. As I say, there's a bit of grass seed amongst that because it came from that same field that you walked through in the summer up at Hookchester. I did get some species specific packets from Rob, which was very good of him to give me that, and they've gone into root trainers so that I can do some plug planting in the spring. These brown flat discs, I'm pretty sure they are all yellow rattle, and yellow rattle is particularly good wildflower meadow because it's parasitical on grass. It restricts the grass's growth. You might rake that in if it was dry enough. It's a bit damp actually for that. And we might roll it, but I'm going to do neither. I'm going to cover it with charcoal fines.
And that's artistic flourish?
That's artistic flourish, not much else.